Settlements. Part 1, a place by the sea. Because what we think of as home is a hazard to others, our shorelines edged with rocks and shallow sandbanks, reefs where navigation fails, we mark the harbour out with lights and noise, flickers of green and scarlet in the dark, the long moan of a foghorn when the daylight thickens and stills. And even when we speak of other things, our prayers include all ships, all those at sea, navigators, pilots, lobster crews. The man who is yanked overboard on a line of creels, whole families of boys and quiet fathers lost in a sudden squall a mile from land. It's not that we surrender to our fear or trust in nothing. It's just that the darkness opens on mornings like this, filling with distance and starlight for mile after mile, when we wake to the taste of milk and the scent of coal in rooms bequeathed to us by merchant men who stocked the roof with powders, sacks of grain, spice tree, and crumbs of saffron. It's not that we are lost or far from home. It's just that the world seems strange on nights like this, when we lie with the ghosts of ourselves, these habitual flavors, aloe and eau de cologne, and the ribbon of sweetness that stays on my hands for hours when I turn to sleep. 2. Fisher folk at New Haven. Mending their nets or standing in their dim smokehouses, hearing the water slap against the wood face of the dock, and thinking of nights at sea, of a spilt quiver of brindled fish on the slur of the deck, of calling back and forth through lantern light for uncles and second cousins to come and look, the fruits of the ocean tarred with a difficult blue, as they haul them in, siren faces poised as if to speak, but silent, like the wives they leave behind for weeks and months, beguiled by the wounded skins they bring in from the dark, the slatted crates dripping with salt and copper, and the pale shimmer of phosphorescence, like the chill that grows between their hands on chapel days. 3. Well. Can you hear the cows? Is that okay? Okay. Well, there's more to it than I thought. More than the house or our still bed when no one is here, the book you have left face down on the kitchen table, the tangle of hair in the brush, the litter of clothes. There's more to the making of home than I ever expected. A process of excavation, of finding something in myself to set against the chill of the other, the echo you do not hear when I stop to listen, the stranger who wakes in the dark from a fetid dream of ditches and milt, and how we go on digging when it seems there's nothing else to find, or nothing more than ghosts and unanswered prayers. It's part of it, and not the better part we hoped for. It's the old need keeps us strong. So when I turn to say, at times like this, that something else is with us all along, I'm thinking of that woman in the town who told me how she worked all afternoon, she and her husband, digging in the heat, bees drifting back and forth through currant stands, the sound of their breathing meshed with the weave and spin of swallows. How after an hour, they struck on an unexpected flagstone of granite and lifted the lid on a coal-black circle of fresh spring water under the stone, leaning in hard for the earth smell of last year's fruit, and sweetness, surprising as rain, or bittern calls, rising like a slow, unfurling shoot of asphodel. It's what I think of now as home, that wellspring deep beneath the house, they tasted for an hour, then put away, sliding the cover back and coming in to all they knew, immersed in the quiet purr of radio, those voices from the air bleeding in through swallow songs and bees to make them plausible again. For they had touched what turns to black, the sifted heat of matter. What we know of houses. Sunday, we are driving to the woods to find the hidden origin of rain. A shallow basin carved into the rock where Pictish chiefs assembled with their kin to reinvent the world, or so we say, though no one knows for sure who gathered here or why. I like to think of them on days like this, perched on a shelf of rock beneath the trees, watching their children, thinking of their stock, and stepping out to sacrifice or blessing. As we have stood together in the shade, made awkward by the quiet of the place, a darkness that continues while the sun brightens the fields and gardens fill with light in market towns or tidy golf hotels above the sea. Though nothing here is sacred, not to us. Even the pool of water stopped with leaves, the carvings in the rock, the standing stone are set apart. And nothing we can touch or say will bring us closer to the spirit of the place. Our holy ground is barely recognized, unverified, an atmospheric trick or common miracle that finds us out, alone in attic rooms as spring begins, a rhythm in the light, a line of song, the sudden taste of grass high in the roof, wind through the gap in the beams, the rafters spiced with cumin, and the aftertaste of nets. And all along the road where dry stone walls have toppled and the steady gorse digs in, embers of perfume sealed in a crown of thorns. Unseasonable, stubborn, every day, it's bright as the notion of home, not something held or given, but the painful gravity that comes with being settled on the earth, redeemable, inventive, inexact, and capable of holding what we love in common, making good with work and celebration, charged to go out unprepared into the world and take our place for granted every time we drive back through the slowly dimming fields to quiet rooms and prayers that stay unanswered.